Today it is Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. I am your host, Proxy, and today you're listening to Saving Progress, a new show all about politics, news around the world, in the US, and even some gaming news and related things like that, nerd culture, what I really enjoy. Today, talking about Ron DeSantis's presidential run. Fox News shows that they're going to have a hard time in 2024. I guess that's next year. We got some stuff about Sony, new games, Twisted Metal live action show coming out. And let's talk about Discord for a while. You're listening to Saving Progress. All right, so today, first story we have for today, this is from Politico. Florida legislator, sure, I can never pronounce that word correctly, passes a bill allowing DeSantis to run for president as governor. As you know, Ron DeSantis is not only, a popular right-winger in the media. He's also the governor of Florida, and he wants to run for president. I remember watching the governor debates when he got reelected, and I don't think my screen is showing. Yeah, let me get here. And his opponent asked him, "Hey, if you will you say you're not going to run for governor because before, I guess the rule was." If you were governor and you wanted to run for president, you had to step down. But let's take a look at that and we'll see that in more detail. So we got here Tallahassee, Florida. Florida's Republican-controlled legislature on Friday approved sweeping election law changes, including a provision that clears the way for Governor Ron DeSantis to run for president without having to resign his current position. It marks the third straight year that Florida Republicans, who hold supermajorities in both chambers, have pushed through alterations to the state's election laws. Democrats and critics decried parts of the bill they contend could upend voter registration efforts and call out the change that would guarantee that DeSantis wouldn't have to resign his current job if he becomes the GOP nominee for president. Many in this body are doing the governor's bidding, State Representative Angie Nixon, a Jacksonville Democrat, said on Friday during the final legislative debate on the measure. If someone wants to run for president, let them. But don't let the governor hold their state or hold Floridians hostage because of blind and drunk political ambition. Lawmakers introduced the provision to change to Florida's resign to run law just days ago. Although legislative leaders first announced their willingness to make changes last November night, right after DeSantis ruled into a crushing re-election victory and Republicans picked up a supermajority in the legislature. Okay, the move for GOP legislators comes shortly before DeSantis is expected to jump into the race for president in the next few weeks, even though he insisted to reporters during a visit to Israel on Thursday that he has not made a final decision. He has, however, traveled to many key early or battleground states like Ohio, New Hampshire, Georgia, South Carolina, and has more than $110 million in donations. All right. So Ron DeSantis here. So basically, when he was getting elected for governor in the newest election, he said what was it, in the debate? Give me 1 second. In the debate, he said he would not say he was not going to run for president, right? So his opponent wanted him to admit, hey, you're going to run for president, admit it, because if he was elected and then he started to run for president, he would have to step down as a governor. So the idea was, why would we elect this guy to be the governor of Florida if he's just going to step down when he runs for president? Because everybody knew he's running for president, right? And so this is what Republicans do, right? They can't win playing by the rules, so they just change the rules. That's how it works. Typically, according to the rules, DeSantis would be ineligible to run for president. So they just changed the rules to make it so he can run for president. That's what Republicans do. That's their rule. That's their playbook. Just change the rules so they win. It's pretty obvious he's going to be running for president. That's the whole suing Disney thing is all about trying to get more eyeballs on DeSantis and get him to be a nationally known name. Because if he didn't do all this stuff, we probably wouldn't be talking about him. So here's a picture here about he went to Israel. That article just said that when he went to Israel, he said that he had no plans of running, or he hasn't decided if he wanted to run yet. But when he went to Israel here, I guess this is called a yarmulke, I believe, if I'm wrong, and please correct me. But he has with his name on here. He's like campaigning with a yarmulke on, guess what is this called? The weeping wall, the Western Wall. I can't remember what it's called. So he was just basically lying to everybody. He knew he wanted to run for president, but he just didn't want to tell everybody because it would hurt his governor chances. Now, here's the thing. When you run for president, it's a lot of work. Campaigning, it's going to multiple cities, different cities every single day, doing rallies, doing interviews, all kinds of stuff. It's a lot of work. So how is he going to run Florida while he is on the campaign trail? And the answer probably is, well, one, he's going to have people that he trusts to do all that stuff. He probably has other people making lots of decisions in the background, like a presidential cabinet would do. And he's just going to show up for all the culture war stuff when it comes to things like suing Disney and any other right-wing red meat he could essentially throw to his base and get some more eyeballs on him. So that's basically what Ron DeSantis is doing, going to run for president. I personally don't think, I think if it comes between Trump and DeSantis, I think Trump is going to wipe the floor with DeSantis. Trump is way meaner. Before I thought DeSantis was like a smarter version of Trump. And he might still be, because that's not saying that much, but I don't think DeSantis is really, I don't want to say he's stupid, but I want to say his political strategy is not very smart. And I don't think he's a very smart guy. So that's it for Ron DeSantis. He's going to go run for president, and we'll keep up on that when we get some more info about that. So we have a news story here from newrepublic.com, and this is about some polls showing in 2024. We have Fox poll shows Republicans in for a brutal 2024 election. Even Fox is admitting on air that the policies it pushes aren't all that popular with voters. That's great. And before we continue, I just want to note that these right-wingers, conservatives, Fox News, and those even to the more right, but even the somewhat mainstream, I guess Fox News is a mainstream. It's one of the biggest news. I think it is the biggest news network. The stuff they're putting on their network and the opinions they have doesn't resonate with most of the country, right? Like I said, they're one of the biggest media news providers in the United States, but really the stuff that they're saying is not resonating with I want to say sane people. I don't want to just throw out the word that these right-wingers are insane, because I don't think that's an accurate term. It's kind of ableist perhaps, but really what they're saying, what they're putting on their network, is getting a lot of viewers, but people really don't believe, really like what they're talking about. So let's look at this. Republicans are calling for more guns, and scrambling to ban abortion every place they can. It's as if someone gave them a shovel and they're trying to dig to the other side of the earth. Their policies are bad on principle, but they're not looking too hot electorally either. Consider the latest poll. Let me zoom in here for a little bit so you can guys see this a little bit better. So we got this Fox News poll. Now, first off, I want to say that actually I've heard that Fox News polling is pretty accurate, but a lot of the times when they show polls or graphs on Fox News themselves, they're very misleading. There's a couple news stories and websites that show the misleading graphs that Fox uses. But anyway, these are just pure numbers, so let's look at these. So this is a poll between April 21st, 24th. 1,004 registered voters. Now, I'm not sure where this poll took place. That'd probably be helpful. But anyways, proposals to reduce gun violence percent saying in favor. So these percentages are people who are in favor of these specific policies. One, we have background checks for guns, right? So if you want to go buy a gun, they check and see if you have any violent behavior in the past, or if you've had any previous altercations or issues with guns. I think that's a pretty, as they would say, common sense gun reform that it looks like almost everybody, 80%, a lot of people approve that. So it's pretty much only the real far right people that aren't gonna agree to that. Enforce existing gun laws. Now, I think this is kind of a pretty funny question. Like, you know, the laws we have right now, let's just enforce them. And it's funny that, 19% believe that we shouldn't enforce them. So that means like 19% of these people already believe that the gun laws are too restrictive. And that's the big holdup here with a lot of laws, especially when it comes to gun rights. It doesn't matter what the law is if, people don't enforce them. And when I say people, I mean the law or police officers. If police officers don't enforce a crime, then who cares if it's a crime or not? And that's the big problem, because we have a police force that is largely right-wing and supports right-wing and conservative ideologies. So if we do end up passing laws that, benefit progressives and maybe restrict some things that conservatives enjoy, it doesn't matter if we pass these laws if, the police force and other people don't enforce these laws that we've passed. So it pretty much bypasses the legislative process, if we don't have people enforcing these laws. We have legal age 21 to buy all guns. Now, I don't know about that question is to buy all guns, so I don't know if you're 18, can you buy a handgun? I'm not sure about that specific question. I will say, I am in favor of, more regulations and, things like background checks and reforms when it comes to guns. But the legal age, making it 21 instead of 18, I don't think that's a really great idea. The same thing with alcohol. I don't think that you should have to be 21 to, consume alcohol. I think it's ridiculous that you can go sign up to go overseas and fight for your country and die. Basically sign your body away to the United States government, but then not be able to drink. So I think that's some pretty not really parallel kind of rights here. Ban assault weapons. Now, assault weapons, I think that's kind of a loose kind of term, not exactly what that term means. More citizens carrying guns. So we see here a majority of people do not think more citizens should carry guns. And, I agree with that. I think more guns equals more problems. And then we have this here. Abortion should be 56% legal, 43% illegal. So it looks like, what the Republicans are pushing is not popular with voters at large. And that's the issue, is Republicans know their ideas are not popular. And if they play a fair game, that they will win and stay in power. Because the whole Republican playbook is about reducing the ability for their political opponents to have power or vote. Okay. That's why you have all these voter ID laws that come into play that disproportionately affect people of color and people that would typically vote left, progressive, Democrats, whatever you want to call them, but not conservative. So that's one way, is to, voter ID laws. Another way is gerrymandering. The Republicans' goal is to have fewer people vote. I'm sure they've said this before in the past. They've said if the fewer people that vote, or the more people that turn out to vote, the worse our chances are. I don't have the article in front of me, but I remember them specifically saying that in the past, having someone quote that. And so that's what we need to do. We need to continue to make sure that people have their right to vote, so we can stop these right wingers, conservative Republicans, or at least slow down their complete power grab of the United States and all the power they're trying to get. Salon has this article. It's a bloodbath. Fox News loses more than half of audience after axing Tucker Carlson. Now, if a lot of news shows have been covering this in the past week or two, Tucker Carlson pretty much got fired from Fox News. He's been there for years. He was pretty much their top personality on Fox News. Millions of people would, I think millions, would tune in every single night to watch him talk about, about how minorities are ruining the country and things like that. Pretty awful things. I laugh, but the stuff he says is pretty awful. He pushed the narrative that the election was stolen, and it was due to the, I believe they're called Dominion companies' election machines. So he pushed this narrative that these machines helped Joe Biden steal the presidency. Fox News pushed this a whole bunch. Eventually, Dominion took them to court. Well, they were going to take them to court. They ended up settling out of court for around $700 million. And I believe that's about a year of revenue for Fox or its parent company. I can't quite remember, but $700 million. So essentially what happened is this guy was a big factor in causing Fox News $700 million. And so they axed him. And so now they're doing, we'll just look at this article here. Hundreds of thousands of Fox News viewers have switched off the channel after the network fired top primetime host Tucker Carlson on Friday. Substitute host Brian Kilmeade garnered 1.33 million audience members during the 8 p.m. Eastern slot on Wednesday, down 56% from the 3.05 million viewers who turned in to watch Carlson last Wednesday, according to Nielsen ratings flagged by the Associated Press. So 3 million to 1.3 million viewers because this guy left. The dip in viewership allowed MSNBC's Chris Hayes to overtake Fox in ratings, a popularity contest that Carlson used to dominate. The conservative host had an average audience of 3.03 million people for all of 2022, making it the second most popular program on cable television after Fox's The Five. I'm not familiar with The Five. When approached for comment, Fox sent a statement saying that for 21 years, it's been cable news' most watched network and has a team trusted by more viewers than any other news source. Media reporter Brian Stelter noted in a tweet on Friday that Fox's audience ratings plummeted from 2.65 million watching Carlson's final show last Friday to 2.59 million on Monday, 1.7 million on Tuesday, and 1.33 million on Wednesday. So as someone on the right, that's fantastic. Fewer people watching that's, increasingly right-wing news, not news, but cable channel. And Fox News is just complete brain poisoning, essentially. There have been studies, I can certainly, if confronted, I can certainly pull them up. I don't have them off the top of my head, but there's been studies that have showed that Fox News viewers are actually less informed than people who don't watch the news at all. Right? So if you don't watch the news, you're better off not watching the news than watching Fox News. And people like Tucker Carlson really aren't journalists, aren't news. What they are is just spewing propaganda, right-wing propaganda, to their audience every single night. And it's better if there's fewer people to do that. Now, I really like this quote here. When approached for comment, Fox sent in a statement saying that for 21 years, it's been cable news's most watched network and has a team trust by more viewers than any other news source. And I point that out because Fox News, their anchors, their viewers, people go on their website, right-wingers, they all rail against the mainstream media and the elites all day long. But the truth is that Fox News is the biggest mainstream media. I use the term news network very loosely in the United States. So you can't be railing against elites and mainstream media if you are the mainstream media. I've always found that funny, and that's really similar to how Trump got elected. Trump railed against the elites, the rich people, things like that, and that's exactly what he was. So I think it's very reflective on their voters of the messaging that they send to their voters and votes that they end up voting for. I'll just say that. So we have a writer's strike from the Independent here. Hollywood writers' strike leads to temporary cancellation of every late-night U.S. talk show. No new episodes will go live until an agreement is reached. Late-night shows in America have been pulled off the air due to the Hollywood writers' strike after months of negotiation after overpay. The union representing 11,500 writers of film, television, and other entertainment forms will take action from Tuesday, 2nd of May. This means talk show hosts including Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers, and Stephen Colbert will not be recording episodes of their shows, which will go dark until an agreement is reached. Guests whose appearances have been canceled include Melissa McCartney, Will Poulter, and Barry star Anthony Carrigan for Kimmel, while Fallon was set to welcome Ken Jeong, Jennifer Lopez, and Ellie Fanning. Meanwhile, Colbert was to have interviewed Cathedral star Priyanka Chopra Jonas, Michael J. Fox, and Shonda Rhimes. So basically, if you're not aware, in entertainment, there's a lot of unions. So we have things like the Writers Guild of America. I'm not sure if that's what it was here, Writers Guild of America, or another. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull up this video, or another. Pause on the side. Let me try to see if I can pull up this video. So they have a lot of unions in the entertainment industry, and so that means if
I wanted to stop you.
So that means if the writers think that they're being treated unfairly, whether it's revenue that they're getting, income that they're getting, working conditions, whatever, they work together to let's see here. Yeah, so they work together to form together and negotiate better deals. I think this video, Stephen Colbert talks about it for a second. Let's check this. Let's check this video out. Let's check this out.
I wanted to stop you from making an ass of yourself on network TV with your misguided analysis of Trump's budget. Oh. You think you can do
this? Is definitely not. This is about Trump. I thought there was a video here. Yeah, but it's great. They stopped writing, if you do any kind of labor for your as a job, then you should support, unions like this. So solidarity to this union. I hope they come to an agreement that is helpful and accepted by everybody. I hope the workers have their conditions improved, or whatever, salaries increased, whatever they need to live happy and nice lives, essentially. So solidarity to them. They are part of the working class, even though not even though they're just part of the working class. All right, let me pull up this next story here. We have, I think this is going to autoplay in video. We have from Fox News here. I know I don't Fox News, but they're very biased when it comes to political things, but this is going to be fine here. So we got ChatGPT found to give better medical advice than real doctors in blind study. This will be a game changer. Now this is, like I said, from Fox News. I think this is going to be an okay article, even though it's just railed on Fox News. But I think this is going to be fine, since it doesn't have really any political agenda. When it comes to answering medical questions, can ChatGPT do a better job than human doctors? It appears to be possible, according to the results of a new study published by JAMA Internal Medicine, led by researchers from the University of California at San Diego. The researchers compiled a random sample of nearly 200 medical questions that patients posted on Reddit, a popular social discussion website for doctors to answer. Next, they entered the questions into ChatGPT, OpenAI's artificial intelligence chatbot, and recorded this response. A panel of healthcare professionals then evaluated both sets of responses for quality and empathy. For nearly 80% of the answers, the chatbots won out over real doctors. Our panel of healthcare professionals preferred ChatGPT 4-1 over physicians, said lead researcher Dr. Wayne W. Ayers, PhD, Vice Chief of Innovation in the Division of Infectious Diseases and Global Public Health at the University of San Diego. One of the biggest problems facing today's healthcare providers is that they're overburdened with messages from patients, Ayers said. With the rise in online remote care, doctors now see their patients first via their inboxes, and messages just keep piling up, he said in an interview with Fox News Digital. The influx of messages could lead to higher levels of provider burnout, Ayers believes. Burnout is already at an all-time high. Nearly 2 out of every 3 physicians report being burned out in their jobs, and we want to solve that problem, he said. Yet there are millions of patients who are either getting no answers or unsatisfactory ones, he added. Thinking of how artificial intelligence might help, Ayers and his team turned to Reddit to demonstrate how ChatGPT could present a possible solution to their backlog of providers' questions. Reddit has a medical questions community, a subreddit, with nearly 500,000 members. People post questions, vetted healthcare professionals. So just talking about the subreddit here, what you need to know essentially is they went through Reddit, looked at questions people asked, put them to ChatGPT, and also asked doctors the same questions. And ChatGPT was preferred, through like a panel of judges. Now, there's a couple of things I want to point out here. Before we get into really my opinions on ChatGPT, and especially using it for medical issues, let me tell you a bit about how ChatGPT and these AI language models work, okay? First, I think the hype around them is incredibly overhyped, right? A lot of it is very marketing. I will say some of these AI tools are pretty neat, pretty useful. A lot of problems with those. And Adam Conover talked about them recently on his show. Basically, what these AI models do is they take in a whole bunch of information and they see what's popular, and they essentially give you the popular answers, okay? So what happens is when I ask a question, the AI looks for what the most popular answer would be, and it would look like, after this question, the most popular word for the answer would be this, the. And then the most popular word after the most likely word to appear might be answer. And then the most likely one would be to your question would be blah, 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 right? And so basically these AI models are looking at all their corpus of data, which is, I think, basically scraped from the internet, and then regurgitate the most popular things back to the users. Well, here's the thing, guys. A lot of stuff on the internet is garbage. It's kind of like garbage in, garbage out. I think if we train specific models, not ChatGPT specifically, but if we train specific models on corpuses that only include answers from experts, would be much better. Now the argument is, of course, since ChatGPT, the responses are the most popular, what's going to come, that's how it works. Then we have a distribution curve, and the most popular are probably going to be the most common, so it's going to use those, right? But for questions that haven't been answered before, not very much, the ChatGPT is not going to have much data on that. And ChatGPT will lie to you. It will straight out lie to you. I was using it the other day, asking to get some answers, and then I would check those answers, and they were completely wrong, completely made up, no basis in reality. And that's a problem. That ChatGPT will confidently tell you the wrong answers, and you won't be any wiser, right? So that's a huge problem with the ChatGPT and AI language models specifically. Now, I want to take a look at this other thing this mentions. This article mentions one of the biggest problems facing today's healthcare providers is that they're overburdened with messages from patients, Ayers said. Now, I've never been able to send my doctor a message to like email or text or through an app or something like that. But that would be pretty nice. I think there's a lot of times where I just need a question answered. Can I take this medicine? Can I eat this? Is it okay for me? And that doesn't warrant using a lot of the healthcare infrastructure of going to the office, checking in, asking the doctor, going through payment, all that stuff, right? It's just a strain on the infrastructure to go do all that when we can just ask a question to the doctor with one of these apps or SMS or email or whatever. So that sounds great. Now I want to say the problem. No, okay. So of course the problem right now is they're saying the healthcare providers are overburdened, and what that means is they have too much work for each healthcare provider. Understood. So their answer is, well, we just give them AI to answer a lot of these questions. Okay. But really, it's more like a Band-Aid for the systemic problems of healthcare in the United States, right? And in many other places. Becoming a healthcare provider, like a dentist or a doctor or even a nurse, takes a lot of work, takes a lot of education, and rightfully so, right? You can't, in medical positions, you don't have the luxury of making mistakes as much as you would do as if you were in, say, marketing, for example, right? A mistake in the healthcare field can be serious. It could be death even. So it takes a lot of education, and education in America is expensive to become one of these healthcare providers. Instead of, so what happens essentially in America, I think, in UK as well, there's a shortage of healthcare providers. One reason is because education is expensive and costly. Healthcare can also be difficult to administer as well. There are probably some other reasons, but one big reason I believe is probably there's the financial barrier of working in the healthcare industry, right? Of going to school for six years or however long you need to go to. Anyways, so instead of addressing that problem, hey, let's make education cheaper. If not for everybody, just at least for healthcare providers, STEM majors, as they might say. Let's make healthcare cheaper. Let's subsidize them, give them a stipend while they're studying. And so we have more healthcare professionals, can build more hospitals. So each healthcare professional has less on their plate. There's less stressful job, and we have higher retention, and everybody's happier. That'd be fantastic. But instead, they're saying, well, let's just give them these AI tools, and they'll figure it out from there. Now, what I could see happening where AI tools might be helpful here, not specifically ChatGPT, but if we trained an AI language model on a corpus of information from doctors and medical experts, not just random things online, to make sure that the quality is high and accurate. And then what we did was we also had a medical professional read over those questions, right? And answers. So if they see something that is completely wrong, then they can, mark it, say, wait a minute, don't do this. If not, they can just, let it go. I can see that being a difficult, a problem though with these doctors, because they'd be looking at, hundreds of messages a day. If one slips through and they're wrong, they could be medically liable for that. But I believe, just saying, hey, just submit your questions to ChatGPT isn't a really good solution, and it's not the solution. It's just putting a band-aid on the system that really needs to be fixed, right? So let's take care of our healthcare system and education system. Two things that I believe America can do well, but the cost factors make it very difficult for anybody to get these, at a cost most people can afford. All right, we got an article here. I'm going to give you a small trigger warning for LGBTQ self-harm. So if that's something you don't want to listen to, there's your warning. Feel free to come back when you see me show the next article, or in about 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, whatever it looks like. You can mute me and just see when to the next article if you like. So trigger warning, self-harm for LGBTQ youth. Let's take a look at this. From Insider, in an annual survey, more than 40% of LGBTQ youth said they considered suicide in the past year. And that anti-LGBTQ legislation was making it worse. Let's take a look here. The Trevor Project, a non-profit that works to prevent the S word. I'm going to have to say the S word or my videos will get blocked. So from henceforth, S word is the self-harm word. The S word among LGBTQ youth interviewed more than 28,000 people for its annual survey. More than 40% of LGBTQ youth say they considered the S word in last year, the survey revealed. Respondents said laws passed on the state level and public lobbying at the national level has worsened their mental health. A disturbingly high percentage of respondents to an annual survey of LGBTQ youth in the United States said they have seriously considered attempting this S word in the last year, and they blame anti-LGBTQ laws and policies for their worsening mental health. The Trevor Project, a nonprofit founded in 1998 that works to prevent the S word, surveyed more than 28,000 LGBTQ Americans between the ages of 13 and 24. It found that 41 respondents have seriously considered attempting S word in the past year, including half of transgender and non-binary young people, and nearly 3 in 10 cisgender young people. So that's the gist of the article there. So here's the thing. I want to reiterate this. Family values, pro-life, supported pro-life party of Republicans are absolutely not pro-life. They're passing bills here that would, increase harm to the LGBT community, including the S word that we just talked about. And they're happy to do so, right? So the whole idea of Republicans being pro-life is a completely gaslighting lie that they've been marketing for the last, multiple decades. So don't believe that, first off. Second off, the S word is definitely a big problem in LGBT communities, especially trans people. You know, when you have uh, Republicans, governors, high-ranking officials basically saying, "We want to eradicate you," and that is not hyperbole. Uh, there was some speech, I can pull it up if you know, if needed, where this guy said, one of these high-ranking politicians in the Republican Party said, "We want to eradicate transgenderism from the public, essentially eradicate." So that's their words, not mine. Um, by the way, I saw that, I believe it was Elon Musk. He posted something about some bad statistics that mix some different studies together, comparing different numbers and different samples, saying that trans youth, after transitioning, their the percentage of them that felt the need for S word and other self harm did not reduce. So we shouldn't allow transgender people to transition. I saw this tweet a couple days ago from Elon Musk. As with a lot of stuff he says, it's complete bullcrap. It's not true. The more we can support LGBTQ youth and LGBTQ adults and just the community as a whole, by letting them express themselves, be who they are, access the medical treatments and other things that they need for a happy, productive life, to help them fulfill the fullness of their life, the better. We need to just help them. You know, they're people just like anybody else. So, you know, I don't see the issue with being anti-trans at all. Well, I don't see the issue with being anti-trans. I don't see why people would be anti-trans besides thinking it's yicky, right? And it's the same thing. It's the same thing with pull this up here. It's the same thing with the gay panic that happened decades ago, right? It's just a new target. You know, before it was minorities, it's black people, and then being black made, you know, is it's not as scary anymore. Well, it's never scary. But you know, to the public, black people aren't scary anymore. So they moved on to gay people. Gay people aren't scary anymore, so they got to move on to trans people. And it's just that, hey, trans people are a little bit different than what we're used to because of cultural norms, and some people just think they're icky just because it is not what they're used to, right? So don't be anti-trans, be an ally for the trans community. We got some religious news here from The Hill. Federal judge rules Pennsylvania school district must allow after-school Satan club. All right. A school district in Pennsylvania must allow students to convene an after-school Satan club, a federal judge ruled on Monday. In a victory for free speech and religious freedom, a federal court has ruled that the Salson Valley School District must allow the after-school Satan club to meet in its district facilities, the ACLU announced. In a Monday filing issued in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania and shared by the ACLU, a judge found that here, although the Satanic Temple Inc.'s objectors may challenge the sanctity of the controversially named organization, the sanctity of the First Amendment's projections must prevail. The school district must allow the after-school Satan Club, which is sponsored by the Satanic Temple, to meet during the school year on 3 previously agreed-upon dates, but it won't have to distribute permission slips for the club for students to take home, according to filing. Let's see here. Yeah, that's not a whole lot more to say about that. The whole idea. Now, this article here didn't mention it in detail, but the whole idea is for if you allow one religion to have rights, you got to let all religions have rights, right? So if you allow like an after-school Christian club, on campus to allow your use your facilities, then you have to let an after school Muslim club and satanic club and any other club, right? And that's to keep the government essentially from mandating a state-sponsored religion, right? I believe, in countries like Iran, maybe Saudi Arabia as well, they have the national religion of Islam, and they have laws that are based on the Quran and Islamic beliefs. Completely awful. I'd hate to be in one of those places. So the whole idea of this fight here was to make sure that government doesn't favor one religion over another religion. Now, here's the thing. A lot of Christians and maybe non-religious people, they'll see the satanic temple. Oh my gosh, Satan, that's so awful. How would you let that happen? And so what happens in some of these situations is the satanic temple gets some rights, so they just remove all the rights for everybody because they don't want the satanic church, the satanic temple to have rights as well. But here's the thing. The satanic temple, first of all, Satan's not real. Okay, so, you can't really, Satan's not real, so what are you going to do about that? But they actually have some pretty good fundamental tenets. Let's look at the fundamental tenets, 7 fundamental tenets of the satanic temple. And let's take a look. So there's 7 here. First one should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures, in accordance with reason. Compassion and empathy. I know those are 2 things that are difficult for conservatives to grasp and pretty much are at odds with conservative ideology. But I would think, promoting compassion and empathy and reason is, is pretty good things to promote. The struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. So yeah, some laws, institutions might not be just, and justice is ongoing. So basically, we need to continue to fight for justice. One body is unavoidable, subject to one's own will alone. So that would be, the right to abortion, the right to do whatever you want with your body. Not seeing anything I disagree with here. The freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willfully and unjustly approach upon the freedoms of another is to forego one's own. So I like this second part here, basically saying you can't encroach on somebody else's freedom. So it's basically, where your freedom ends is where mine begins. You might have the freedom to, you might think you have the freedom to shoot your gun in the air, but when that bullet comes down and hits me in the head, that is going to restrict your so-called freedom to shoot your gun in the air because it can affect my freedom. Perfectly fine. Here, freedoms of others should be respected. Yeah, okay. Including the freedom to offend. That's okay. If you want to offend other people's religion, that's fine. Other people's views, that's fine. I think dumb views should be mocked and made fun of, perfectly fine. I just don't like the wording of this tenet here, because a lot of edgelords are all about offending people. They're not trying to make a point or try to fight for a law. Their whole stick is offending people, and that's basically a lot of what conservative comedy is being offensive, not to be even comedic, but just to be mean. And that's kind of douchey. I think just being mean to be mean kind of contradicts here with compassion and empathy towards others. That said, I think you should be able to offend and mock things and beliefs that are stupid. Okay. 5, beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. one should take care never to distort scientific facts to what fit one's beliefs. Yeah, so the popular phrase, follow the science. Let's look at what the science says to make our decisions. We're going to base our laws and lives and society around science. I like it. I like it. People are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might be caused. So basically saying, if you make mistakes, you should have the chance to rectify those mistakes. Last one here. Every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action and thought. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word. Now, I really like this. This is basically saying, compassion, wisdom, and justice should come first, over any of the other tenets or any other beliefs. That's fantastic. I don't really see anything here I disagree with. And I think if most people were given this kind of list of things, I think most people would agree with that. And what I would like to see a large scale, this will probably never happen, but a large scale survey that says would you agree? Do you agree with this? On a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you agree with this? I would like to see that in relation to one's religion, right? And see if one's current religion correlates to any of their opinions on these tenets. And I bet with some of these tenets, such as number 1, one should strive to act with compassion and empathy towards all creatures in accordance with reason. I think a lot of conservatives and Christians would agree with that one. And 4 here, the freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend, to willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another to forego one's own. I think a lot of libertarians and conservatives would definitely agree with that tenet. The problem with these, and it's not necessarily the problem with themselves, is the Satanic Temple has a branding, an image problem. So let's just take a look. Well, one, they're called the Satanic Temple. But if you look at their imagery, it's all goat horns and really metal kind of stuff and things like that. And Bahamut, here. And I think this really scares off a lot of people that would otherwise kind of jump on, not the bandwagon, but jump on really believing and promoting these ideals here. And I understand that the Satanic Temples, their imagery and marketing is somewhat to offend Christians and kind of, get news stories about them and things like that. I think it would be better off to, kind of tone down the visual imagery. But I think, here's the thing, but I think if there was another nonprofit group, I'm not going to say religion, but a group with all these same tenets, if they weren't called the Satanic Temple, they would not get probably the amount of press and news coverage that the Satanic Temple gets. Regardless, I think the Satanic Temple, I think they have a lot of good tenets that most people would agree with. And the reason why people do not look at the Satanic Temple and what they believe in is because the name itself and the imagery. So what I would like to see, not necessarily the Satanic Temple rebrand, but maybe another organization have all the same beliefs and have it, position itself almost like centrist, so we can get some people that are kind of on the edge. I would like to see that. I think that'd be helpful for the religious freedoms in America and just society as a whole. So, when I really started getting into news, watching news, world news specifically, one outlet that I really enjoyed was Vice News. Vice News, maybe 5, 10 years ago, and they still do today, just not as much as before. They had some really good documentaries where they would travel the world. They went to North Korea a couple times and tell the story that's happening there. I really like their storytelling techniques for their stories that they talk about, that they cover, and I just think it's a great, I would say, organization. I just really like Vice News. Vice Media preparing to file for bankruptcy. Axios. Now here's what's funny. I was just looking at Vice News Wikipedia page the other day, and this Vice News is worth a ton of money, and you'll see here a little bit further in, and maybe one day, Saving Progress can grow into kind of like a Vice News network type of deal, covering culture, different things. I would really like that. That's kind of my big vision for Saving Progress. We'll talk about that later. So let's take a look at this this story here from Axios. Vice Media is preparing to file for bankruptcy, according to 2 sources familiar with the matter. Why it matters. Vice was once considered one of the most successful news startups of all time when investors valued it at $5.7 billion in 2017. Now it's struggling to sell itself for more than $1 billion. So before valued at almost $6 billion, now trying to sell for $1 billion. The company has taken steps to file for possible bankruptcy if it cannot secure a buyer in the next few weeks. Sources told Axios. Vice is still engaged in talks to sell itself, either in full or in pieces, 2 sources told Axios. A sale would prevent bankruptcy, but finding a buyer willing to pay more for $1 billion for the company has been challenging, as has finding one willing to take over the company's debt load. Vice raised more than $30 million in debt financing from Fortress Investment Group, one of the largest creditors, in February. Fortress has already participated in Vice's $250 million 2019 debt round. How we got here. Vice was co-founded by former Voice of Montreal colleagues Shane Smith, Charles Abbey, and Gavin McInnes as magazine in 1994 after raising $4 million from Canadian soccer magnate Richard Solwinski. The trio moved from the company from Canada to New York. Okay. Quick note here. Shane Smith, he seems like a pretty cool dude. He did some of the documentaries where he went to North Korea. I believe it's here Gavin McInnes. Although Vice is pretty progressive, this old co-founder here, he's actually went to become the founder of the Proud Boys. So he's very reactionary, completely went the other direction. Things went sour once investors began to realize that Vice's growth is slowing, which made it hard to justify the massive valuations received from investors over the years. So I saw a post on social media, maybe a news article, that said everything that you've liked that has turned to crap is because of VC or investor capital. So what happens is a lot of great things, say Vice, for example, other media, other startups, will start to grow and get traction. And then what they'll do is they'll get some investment money, right? And, these are capitalists looking to invest money in these organizations and get a return on their capital, under the assumption, essentially, that the company will have infinite growth. They don't specifically say we'll have infinite growth, but basically a lot of these models are contingent on the fact that these news networks or whatever these businesses that are receiving investor capital are going to continue to grow forever. Basically, that's a requirement from capitalism of you always need to grow and expand. And in a finite world, you can't continue to grow, right? So in Vice's case, it probably slowed down for a couple of reasons. One, attention is essentially finite as well. Everybody is already spending all their time on their phones, on their laptops. you're competing with TikTok, you're competing with video games, you're competing with going out to eat, you're competing with everything that requires attention. You're competing with all these things, increasingly difficult. As someone who has worked in advertising before, attention is increasingly difficult to get, but it's one of the most important things in the world to have, essentially. Now, here's the other thing about Vice and its slowdown. I think we're going to continue to see the increase of independent news and like personality driven and one person news. So we have things like I know Louder with Crowder, his business is going downhill really quickly. We're going to see if he's even has a business in the next couple of weeks or a show in the next couple of weeks. But basically, him, Ben Shapiro, Daily Wire shows, the Majority Report with Sam Cedar, which I really enjoy. All of these other kind of news and commentary outlets, I think we're going to see more and more of those, that they're smaller, and they're going to take more attention away from larger things like CNN, NBC, and even Fox. I think Fox is going to see a lot of people jump ship and go over to whatever Tucker Carlson's new thing is, and they're probably going to go to other smaller creators. And I think that's good and bad. Good. It's good in the fact that a lot of these independent people are going to be not really, I wouldn't say corporate owned. They're going to need to have revenue from somewhere, probably from advertising and sponsors, but they're also able to crowdfund, and essentially they're able to say things that would not be popular with bigger companies that larger news channels would be beholden to. And I think that's great. The bad thing is, though, a lot of these smaller channels and outlets, they're not journalists by trade, and they don't have journalistic standards as a media outlet usually would have. Okay. And so that means you just get a lot of lies, like a lot of bullshit, and that's not good. More fake news spreading around the world, around the internet, not good. And a lot of these people are going to be going to commentators, not necessarily news, basically to get the news broken down into a format that fits their worldview, right? So you don't have a news outlet, you have a conservative news outlet. And I think that could be a problem. We all have biases. I have a bias. And if you're getting all your news from biased sources that confirm your biases, not good. So we're going to see how that plays out in the next 10 or so years. I think we're going to see a lot more independent creators get larger, and more news built around the personality of independent creators. Those are some of the major news stories we have today. Let's move on to some gaming news we have. So this one is, I'm very excited about this one. We're talking about Sony here. And this is from Push Square. Sony, we're not just creating 10 live service Destiny or Fortnite games. Here we have, this is going to be the Last of Us multiplayer live service game. Very excited about that. This is going to be the game that makes me buy a PlayStation 5. As soon as this game gets released, I'm going to go buy a PlayStation 5. Right now, I don't see the need for a PlayStation 5, but this game is going to take up all my free time when this comes out. Let's take a look here. Sony has sought to clarify its live service plans for the future, revealing in a new interview with GameIndustry.biz. The 10 titles it has in the works aren't just Destiny or Fortnite ripoffs. PlayStation Studios boss Herman Hollis said, PlayStation Studios are making a variety of games that could be referred to as live services, targeting different genres and various release schedules and scales. We are also creating games for different audiences, and I take confidence from our track record in creating worlds and stories that PlayStation fans love, he explains. The interview follows the news Sony has acquired Firewalk Studios, the team currently working on an unannounced multiplayer game for PS5 and PC. Oh, is that going to be The Last of Us multiplayer? We'll see. As for why Sony picked up the developer before it has even released a game, Holst said, "We have been working closely with Firewalk for a while now. We have both really enjoyed that process, and we have incredible confidence in what they're creating." So this felt like a very natural step. We understand the competitive environment that is out there and the time investment from players that live services offer, and we want to deliver the highest quality games, Herman Holtz promises. What sort of live service games do you want from Sony? Let us know in the comments below. So I think a lot of hardcore gamers scoff at the idea of live service games. They think live service game, they think Fortnite. Well, here's my opinion. I think PlayStation or Sony is the absolute leader in first-person narrative games. Not first-person, but just one-player narrative games. We have titles like The Last of Us, God of War, things like that. Their quality is unmatched. Single-player narrative-driven games. Completely unmatched. I really hope we see more of those, and I hope that Sony continues those. And I think that's kind of what the message was here, that they're going to continue making those types of games. Fantastic. Let's keep making those games. But they're also going to start doing more live service games. And what that means, I think that's pretty exciting. Now, I'm not really a Fortnite fan. I don't really like... I just tried playing it. I really didn't get it. It's not a game for me, and that's completely fine. But there's some games that I do really enjoy, like, the Last of Us franchise. What else? Resident Evil 4 just came out. Remake just came out like a month ago. And when I play those games, I find myself playing them and then playing them over and over again. I already have about 100 hours in Resident Evil 4 Remake. And I just find myself wanting more, right? And if I can get more from a franchise that I really enjoy, I will pay for it. I'll happily pay for it. Continue building out the the world. Build out the world, build out characters, give more story. What happened before, what happened after, what happened with this specific character, introduce more characters. Give me more. All right, I mentioned a long time ago, I mentioned that Final Fantasy VII, if Square continues making Final Fantasy VII games, I'll keep buying them. No, I haven't bought the remake of the Vita game, of the PSP game, that recently came out. What is it? Reborn? Final Fantasy VII Reborn. But if you're going to keep making things that I enjoy, I'm going to happily spend money on them. So let's do that. More great games by Sony. That's what I'm asking for. Game Informer. Remember Game Informer? I believe this was the magazine that GameStop would always try to get you to sign up for whenever you purchase anything. I think you purchase like a year for like $20, and then you get their card. They get you like 10% off of new games, 15% off used games, whatever it was. Game Informer, you know what? I would really like game magazines to really come back. There's just something about magazines, like gaming magazines, that I really enjoy kind of feeling and everything. So you remember Twisted Metal? I think the first one might have been a launch title for PlayStation 1. I can't quite remember. If it wasn't a launch title, it was very, very early when PlayStation 1 came out. First one was pretty good. Second one's pretty good. When they started getting... Third one was good too. When they started getting to like PlayStation 2, I think it was, and the games just went really downhill. And I think they don't age really well. They feel kind of weird playing them. But I like the idea. And we're going to have a live action show. So let's check out this trailer that just got released. Check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
Got Sweet Tooth here, great. So Sweet Tooth has really been basically the face of Twisted Metal since the beginning. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know if he is a returning character or not. I believe in the first Twisted Metal, it's the first one. I think the only black guy was Thumper, and he drove a pink car, a lowrider. It's pretty stereotypical, very stereotypical. Um, I don't. It was not this guy. I know that for sure. So I think this might be a new guy, maybe from the second one. We have Sweet Tooth here. He's the main face of the game essentially. I like the. I think it looks cool. You know, I saw some comments on some social media talking about this is going to be awful and I'd prefer another game. I'm going to go against the grain here. And I'm going to say that I think this Twisted Metal is going to be pretty cool. I know the Last of Us adaptation was really good. I would like to see this is the same thing as I just talked about of expanded universes and live service games when it comes to popular franchises like The Last of Us. If you can take an IP, intellectual property like Twisted Metal, and some people would say milking it, but I'd say if you can provide fans with what they really like, whether that be new games, new shows, new whatever, continue to provide that for them. Give people stuff they want. Twisted Metal here, it says Twisted Metal will premiere on July 27th, exclusively on Peacock, and consists of 10 half-hour long episodes. We'll update the story of the teaser trailer when it becomes available. So there's going to be more information that comes out on that probably before July 27th. I don't see this performing commercially well because it's on Peacock. I don't think Peacock is doing really that well. I could be completely wrong, but we have all these streaming services now, and it's just another service. I have no interest in signing up for Peacock whatsoever. Between Netflix, HBO Plus, we got Disney Plus, HBO Plus, HBO Max, Disney Plus. We got all these different streaming platforms, and I'm not gonna sign up for Peacock. I'll find a way to watch it. I'll just say that. When I was young, middle school, I would say, I was really into Pokemon cards. And it looks like Pokemon cards are actually having quite a revival recently with like Jake Paul and other influencers really getting in on the Pokemon card train. So I really see the appeal of Pokemon cards. I wish Pokemon cards was more socially acceptable for adults to get into, and there was a way to do like online communities. Like if there is this, and I just don't know, please let me know. I wish there was an online multiplayer, massively multiplayer Pokemon card online game. You collect cards, build your decks, play against other people, have social elements. I would be all into that. I think I've I want to say, outgrown the Pokemon franchise. That's fine. I just, a lot of the stuff that comes out is not very appealing to me, the new Pokemon design, stuff like that. I will say the card game itself is one of the funnest card games that I've ever played. And I just really enjoy playing Pokemon cards. So we have the story here from Kotaku. A Japanese store is banning adults from buying Pokemon cards. A retail store in Akihabara will check IDs to prevent adults from buying and reselling Pokemon cards. In the wake of Pokemon cards totally selling out in Japan, it appears that one trading card store in this country, Akihabara district, has adopted some drastic measures, bar adults from buying cards so kids can enjoy the hobby. Pokemon cards have always been popular and widely sought after, but as of late, it seems like things have really exploded. Internet celebrity Logan Paul, like I said, gladly spent millions of dollars on the card stock collectibles, even if some of them were fake. One person allegedly stole tons of the things just to resell them in a local shop. There are also the occasional few who lay down hundreds of thousands of dollars on the rarest cards, although sometimes the online sale absolutely flops. And with the new Clay Burst and Snow Hazard packs that include special illustration rare cards from Scarlet and Violet Gym Leaders, Garusha, and I know the quest to obtain Pokemon cards has become even more difficult. The new packs caused the recent card drought in Japan as adults lined up outside the shops to buy the new packs and to resell them online for a tidy profit. I think that's a capitalism, baby. I think that's pretty awful. Scalping. I will say, so scalping here. So basically, adults who are going to the store, buying up all the Pokemon cards and then reselling them at a higher profit. At a higher price for profit. And I remember seeing this also happen when everybody is trying to go out and buy hand sanitizer and things like that. Some local people would buy all the hand sanitizer and then sell it online for 4 times the price. And I remember people, hardcore capitalists, saying things like, that's not capitalism or business, that's just sticking it to people when they need it the most and being awful to people and taking advantage of people. 100% correct. Doing that and taking advantage of people, absolutely awful. But what the people criticizing this fail to understand is that happens with all commodities and all products. Housing is all bought up to be sold at a higher price where many people are priced out. Food is bought and sold at a higher price where some people can't afford. All products in capitalism are essentially this way. It's not just Pokemon cards, not just hand sanitizer. Now it seems a retail store in Japan's bustling shopping district is limiting the sale of Pokemon cards to junior high schoolers and younger to help prevent the odds from snatching them up during the local breaks or graveyard shifts. So we have a picture here. Let's see, it's on Twitter here. So we have this here. This is a limited edition for junior high school students and younger. So I see this, a couple things with this story. It's one, yeah, maybe the business owner wanted to, save some cards for, younger kids. Maybe they wanted to do that. But I think if this guy was a really savvy business person, which it seems like they might be a savvy business person, then they would know that this story itself would give them a lot of PR and news coverage. And not necessarily negative news coverage either. So we're talking about it now, some card shop in Japan that I would never be talking about in a million years. They're doing this with this policy and having people talk about them. Fantastic marketing move, if in fact it was for marketing. If not for marketing, still fantastic marketing move. Last story we got here today, not necessarily a story, but more of an opinion here on Kotaku again. Stop closing forums for Discord. Excuse me. So we got here. As technology advances and online communities shift to adapt, we take it as a kind of default proposition that news sites and platforms should be better than old ones. Reality, of course, has different plans. Take Discord. It's a great platform, a huge improvement over older ideas, and a convenient combination of a number of outdated messaging and communication services. If you want to hang out in a room with friends, in a place you can both type and talk to each other, it's perfect. Discord excels as a means of real-time communication for people talking in the moment. What Discord is not good at, however, is being a long-term repository of information. The kind of place you can ask a question, get an answer, and then have that answer remain easily accessible for months, years, or even decades to come. So it sucks that companies continue to close forums, which are excellent repositories, and try to shift those communities to Discord, which are absolutely useless at it. I said this in 2021 when Bethesda did it. I said it again in 2021 when Eurogamer did it. I said it last year when Gearbox did it, and I'm now saying it again in 2023. You need to stop this shit. These are apples and oranges. So it looks like Amazon did that for some games that are coming out, and I totally agree with this person. Who is this person that wrote this article? I totally agree with Luke Plunkett. Luke, you are 100% right. I do like Discord as a platform. I use it daily almost to communicate with friends. It's fantastic for synchronous communication, real-time communication with your friends. Great platform for that. You can do video also. You can do live streaming. All that stuff. It's fantastic for a lot of uses. I've used it for playing online games that didn't have a voice chat feature as well. It's fantastic. I really like Discord. It is awful for storing information or coming back to the information later, which is storing information. So a lot of times I'll go to Discord and see I'm tagged in a bunch of different comments, and I never get to see them because just the comment system and the pinging system in Discord is pretty awful. On desktop at least, it's hard to find out where you're pinged at, things like that. Also, it's hard to keep topics together. If you haven't used Discord before, it's just kind of like message after message after message. In other communities, love it or hate it, Facebook groups is pretty good at this. Facebook groups, you can ask a question, and then you can have comments related to that question contained in a box underneath that specific question. So everything related to that specific question is all in one place. If you don't want to read things about that question, you skip down to the next question that was asked, and then everything related to that question is there as well. So Facebook is a fantastic system for doing this, and I wish Discord had a way to do this. They do have a reply system, but nobody really uses replies. So it makes it very difficult, especially when you want to have more than one conversation going on at one time in one specific channel. Very difficult. The other thing, it's not permanent, essentially. You can search through Discord messages, but it's very difficult. It's very time consuming. You have to go through each individual channel, search through them. I don't think the search is very good. As opposed to forums where they're indexed on search engines like Google and Bing, where if I have a similar question to something that's been asked, I can ask it on Google or Bing, and that page where that discussion has happened is indexed, and I can go and check it out there. It's fantastic to do that. But with Discord, there's no way to do that. You would have, for Discord, to find answers to your questions, you would have to know basically what server your question was answered and asked on, to go to that server, search through the channels to that server, and it's just an awful way for communication, that for anything that wants to stay around longer than 5 seconds or so. So please, please, please keep important messages on your own website or on a forum or on another platform that's easily accessible to other people who might want to access that question or content later on. What we're having is an archiving problem with the internet, essentially. A lot of the things that on the internet that would otherwise be archived, important discussions, answers, and questions are getting put in these programs like Discord, and are essentially going to be difficult to reclaim later on, or see later on, or maybe impossible if something happens to Discord. So that's going to be a tragedy if that ever happens. Instead, please keep your information on your own site. if you have to on other forums, maybe Facebook. I don't like Facebook that much, but keep it on your own site so we can access it later. Okay, so that is the last story we have here for Saving Progress. I thank you for coming to this stream, and I hope everyone has a great day. I will see you maybe tomorrow or the day after, probably the day after. I'll put some of these videos up on the YouTube channel. Please subscribe if you want to listen more about news, politics, and gaming news, and I will see you guys later.